Hello, welcome to Yoga Lounge. It's good to see you. Okay, so tonight I'm going to try something very different, and it could be a complete fun thing, or it could be something that everybody's like, oh, no, that's not yoga. So we're going to have an open mind. I want to deconstruct some yoga things, and I want to do spontaneous movement. So there are some precedents for this. There is some precedence for this. There's things called spontaneous kriyas. Hello, Deborah. Hi, Deb. And so we have spontaneous kriyas, which is when the movement just comes through the body and anything happens. It's very spontaneous. It's not anything that the will enacts. It comes through more like coming through spirit. So that's one aspect of spontaneous movement. Another thing is that we can think of it as allowing movement to move us. So we're not so much the doer in this case. It's just like sometimes when you think of what is breathing and who is doing the breathing. I'm breathing, or is the universe breathing, and I'm the more or less like the receptacle or the bellows here. So it's the same idea. You take yourself a little bit out of being the main thing, the main driver, the chief cook and bottle washer, and you become the one that's like the receptacle for, or the vehicle for this universal energy to move through us. So we're going to deconstruct some yoga poses and attempt to allow spontaneity to come through, and I'll explain why we're doing that as we continue through the class. Okay, so it's going to be some yoga. I'm not going to just do crazy stuff, so you'll see. So we'll come up and come to standing now. We might be really spontaneous today because my cat is roaming around, so she might be spontaneous as well. Okay, so the idea is we're going to start moving a very small part of our body, and you don't have to do exactly the same thing that I'm doing. We're going to start exploring movement. Right now, I'm just going to take my right shoulder and I'm going to start moving it around a little bit, and just notice how it feels to move it. And I'm going to just do whatever feels right for me. So I might start adding in some other parts of the body to this. It's not frozen at all. You do whatever you feel like doing at this moment. And really what you're doing is just trying to pay attention to what's happening in the chosen area that you're working with. See what's happening there. When you really slow it down, what muscles are you working? Just trying to become aware of it. Don't worry how it looks. In this particular thing that we're doing tonight, we don't even have to even it out on both sides like we normally do with yoga. We are going to just explore a particular thing that's more spontaneous. And that might lead you to another thing. So you can always switch your emphasis. You might come into exactly the other side. I mean, that's a possibility. When you think about it, it's very hard to let go of patterns. It's very hard to let go of rules. It's hard for us to let go of what's instructions, especially the more you know, the harder it is to let go of those instructions. So the more experienced yoga, the more yoga you've done, the more you feel like you can't. You feel a little bit frozen with your ability to be more spontaneous with your body. And so, a few more moments of just letting yourself move any way that feels good for you, and explore. sometimes when I get, like, let's say a craniosacral treatment or something like that, my body does move in very odd, spontaneous ways. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about here. And that's all about the body releasing energy, stuck patterns, traumas. So when it's a very healing thing when you release stuck patterns and traumas. Sometimes I'll end up like really stuck. I'll be in a position on the table like kind of like this, and I'm wondering, okay, it seems odd, but yet it feels kind of good. I've got my shoulder all crunched up and then my neck, but yet it feels very somehow correct. And then the energy moves through, might change a little, and then all of a sudden something opens up. So while we might not get to all these feelings in the half hour that we're going to try tonight, just try to work on that during the week a little bit. Like if you all of a sudden feel like just being in a strange, unusual looking shape, you know, just go with it. One thing about being home a lot and being out of the socializing scene, we're not as worried about what everybody else is thinking of how we look all the time, and I think that's a freeing thing. So we can use that freedom and work with that on this spontaneous movement stuff. It isn't about like how great you're going to look in this pose. It's really going to be more about what is releasing, what is being kind of wrung out of you, what muscles, what traumas, what, you know, everything like that. And in the meantime, we'll put in some standard form of yoga here. So inhaling, taking the arms out and lifting up. And exhaling, folding forward. Okay, fingertips can touch down. If not, you can touch your hands to your legs, and let's just traction out the back for a few moments. Taking some nice deep breaths. And then let's separate our feet, hips distance apart, and fold again. And slowly we're going to rock back with our hips back and bring the hands up as we come to a partial squat. If this doesn't work for you, you can certainly be up higher if you need to be. So you can be lower or higher as you need. Take another breath there. And exhale, fingertips down, fold. Good. Inhale, lifting to the half fold. Exhaling, let's place hands on the ground and step back into your downward facing dog. So you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between improv dancing and what I'm talking about, a spontaneous movement of energy through the body? It is similar, I believe. So we're just staying in downward dog for a few breaths. If you need to, please feel free to come down into child's pose. That would be on your knees. So I think it's similar. I just think that when you're improv dancing, you're also working with your will a little bit. Your will is involved in changing and shaping some of the movements. And I think this form is about letting the movement go through you with trying not to actively engage your will. So you're not attempting to change the movement from what it's doing. Okay, let's drop to the right knee and slide your left foot forward to the top of the mat and rise up on one knee. Inhale. Good. And breathe. Lengthen. Exhale. Look up. Inhale. Exhale. Let's hands down. Step back. And come back into downward dog or child's pose. Exhaling. Let's drop left knee down. Step forward with the other foot and rise up. Inhale. stretch the fingers to the sky. Good. Exhaling fingertips down. Let's lift the back knee off the ground and rise up to a high lunge. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale, coming up to a balance. So take your back foot off the ground and bring it in front of you now. And then stretch it back. So it's like a toggling move. We bring it forward. Inhale and stretch it back. Exhale, forward. Inhale, back. One more time. Exhale, knee. Inhale, back. And let's lower yourself back down. Take downward facing dog. Good. Exhaling, right knee down. Step forward, left. Tucking the toes under. Inhale, lifting the knee off the ground. Rise up. Exhale. Inhale and exhale. Trying our toggling balance pose. We take the back leg off the ground and bring it forward on your exhale. Stretch it back on the inhale. Exhale. See if you can stay upright the whole time. Inhale. Exhale. One more now. Inhale. And step back. Good. Eyes up. Downward facing dog. Okay. Now within the pose, within the downward dog, let's take a moment to see where you can allow something spontaneous to happen. So, you might find something happening in your ankle and you might decide, okay, you know what? I want to move my foot around. I'd like to take my knee in a circle here. Or maybe it's my right wrist. Perhaps again, that same shoulder I was working, kind of moving that hand off the ground and allowing that to happen. So don't plan it out. Just kind of let different things occur within the pose and see where it goes. It's a lot of ways that I come up with some transitions between poses is through this type of thing. Just kind of doing some things and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, that can transition to a pose. So letting yourself play around within the pose itself and do some things that don't normally occur as you take the static pose. Again, you don't have to follow what I'm doing. It's just showing you that what it is that I'm doing. You can do a totally different thing. Let's come down to the knees. All right, sink back into child's pose. So let's rock side to side. Good. Now, as you rock side to side, you might notice that you can actually circle. And as you're circling around, it starts to have a little bit more of that spontaneous feeling. So play around with going from a pose that has a specific thing, a direction, and then moves into a little bit more of a spontaneous thing. So once again, you can add and you can take away different things. You don't have to even go in the same direction anymore. You can also take a pause and stop in one of those different forms, unusual forms. And since this is still the yoga portion now, you can try recreating your movement going in the other direction. Just see what you remember. And if you can mirror it, great. it might look totally different on the other side. And that would be actually more appropriate perhaps, because it shows that your body is sort of dictating, the movement is happening through you, and you're not getting involved too much with your will and your mental process of it. Okay, so we're going to slowly come to the front of the mat now, bringing ourselves to forward fold. Rise up on the inhale and exhale, samastiti. Okay, let's do a pigeon variation here. Inhale, exhale, lift and step back. Okay, right leg comes up in the air. We'll allow it to open up. Open up, and you can take your toe pointing back. You can even come off your right fingers a little bit. I'm on my fingertips to really get open there. And then exhaling, we'll bring the knee down, 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 and forward. And sitting in pigeon. Okay, let's take our hands to the side, stretch them out a little bit, fingertips connecting, and we lift the heart. Adjusting now. Let's move slightly forward and slightly back. Side to side, finding a place where you feel most stable, and then we'll fold forward from there, taking the heart and lengthening forward. Good. All right, I have a lot of fun with things like side plank, so if you enjoy that, you can do this movement with me. If not, you can create a different movement that works great for you. But I like to take one foot down and maybe slide the other foot forward and open. And then maybe I'll do some arm circles with it. Up and over. And open and over. So again, you can play around with your level of movement. Do less movement, more movement, whatever it is you're comfortable with. We're going to allow ourselves to come down, in downward dog again. Now, if you need to take a break here, let's come down and go into child's pose. Drop your forearms facing, palms facing up. Let your head come in between your elbows and release. Okay, planting hands again, downward facing dog, and the right leg is lifting. Oh, sorry, the left leg is lifting. Toes back, fingertips. This is just my suggestion. You do not have to come to fingertips. You can have your hand flat. Then we're going to come forward, forward, forward with left knee this time. And again, moving with it. So it's almost like you're exploring more like an animal type of level. You're on the ground, you're kind of walking and moving. My cat's going, let's see about that one now. She's coming down. Yeah, see? That got you all excited. See, you sensed that it was like an animal type of movement, right? Okay, so now we're going forward, and we extend, reach forward. Okay, and our next approach is I'm going to play around with the side plank, and certainly you can if you like. Starting out Or you can take another pose, deconstruct some movements, add some different things into it. And when you're ready, releasing. Okay. Alrighty, so, and maybe we'll do a back bend with a little bit of extra. So come onto your backs. Typically the back bends are very stable, right? We go up, we stay, we hold. We get firm in our connections to our feet. It's all good. We're not going to deconstruct that part of it. So connect your feet to the mat. We're working our shoulders nicely under us. Keep your fingers pointing up here. So fingers pointing to the sky. Work the shoulders under you. And then if you flipped open the palms will be facing up. And you're going to draw your shoulders even further. Bring your elbows closer to your side. Fingers facing up. Good, now let's press up into our bridge pose. Take your hands and place them right on your rib cage. Good. Sliding down, down, down alongside your hips. And then pick yourself a little bit higher. Maybe slide the thumbs underneath you. Good, now the only thing I want you to think about here is how can you relax a little bit in the glute area and not be so solid in it. So a little bit more release. Just relax a little bit. Make it a little more eased. And then slowly we'll come rolling down onto the back. Okay, wide knees over to the side, windshield wipering. We're going to move our hands back and forth. So each time the knees come to one side, let's also take our arms up and over. So the knees are mirroring the action of the upper body with the twist. Knees over, arms to the other direction. And knees over, arms to the other direction. Good. Now, coming to our legs in the air, here's another place where we can certainly work on some spontaneous things that can happen, right? So if we choose to take the arms overhead and then get them to expand along the ground, perhaps a big circling around. Sorry, honey. Yep. So if you're circling the arms around, right, you can feel the shoulders moving, and then maybe you just want to take your shoulders into a sort of a dance. And you can even just keep those legs in the air. They're just acting right now, to give you that inversion, but you're doing other things. You can move your hands to the side. You can do your kind of upside down dancing. And shoulders rocking. And then just release, and let's take the legs slowly down one at a time. We'll drop one leg to about 6 inches off the ground. And then bringing it back up, and the other leg about 6 inches off the ground. And bringing it back up. Let's bring the arms overhead. And we'll take the right leg down and bring that right arm up to touch the left leg. So it's an alternating arm position. And then release, taking the left foot down and the left arm up to reach for the right foot. Touch or not touch, doesn't matter. And then release. Good. Bring the knees in as if you're letting the knees collapse into your body. So let's try that again. We're going to take the legs up and let the knees come as if something was holding your feet to the ceiling, like a rope, and then the rope was let go and it just collapsed like a sack. So let's try that one more time. Allow the body weight and just let yourself collapse into it. Good. And then we'll bring the legs down. Finding your resting pose now. You can either take your knees together and work that. You can take the soles of feet together and work Supta Baddha Konasana, or your final resting pose, Shavasana, corpse pose. So relaxing onto your back completely. Going to let yourself go. Releasing any need for any movement at all. And just let the breath breathe you. The one who is the real, the single one who is the real entity, the real universe, the universal one, is breathing you. begin to bring some awareness back to your body and bring some movements. Your hands and your feet, your arms and your legs, gently increasing those movements until you find yourself in a full stretch. And on an exhale, drawing the knees in, rolling to the side. Spending a few moments on your side. And when you're ready, gently return to sitting up. So the idea of this type of movement is definitely been explored in other modalities. There are things like, I think the Feldenkrais method is very similar to just kind of moving. That first shoulder thing I was doing reminded me of that, to give you insight into how your body's moving. But definitely a truly spontaneous Kriya isn't coming from thinking it through or even willing anything to happen. So that is something that just will occur. But we can still move more spontaneously once in a while, even in a yoga context and in our daily lives as well. So I hope you got something out of this, and I know it was a little bit off the beaten path, but thank you so much, and namaste as always. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and hopefully I will see you again shortly. Take care. Hi, hello everybody. Nice to see you all. That's wonderful. Great job.